Now, we really don't talk about COVID or anything like that.
COVID-19.
It's not really our cup of tea, but today we're going to be talking about COVID because we were talking about it earlier today, and we're like, hey, this will be a good idea for the podcast.
You mean the plague?
The plague.
The modern day plague that we've all faced here?
Yep. Picture it.
Picture it.
2000, what was it, 20? 2020.
It was my 21st birthday. I remember that, so it was 2020.
Picture it. 2020.
It's actually March 3rd, 2020, okay? You're turning on the news, and literally everything is shutting down. Go ahead.
So before COVID happened, I probably look stoned too. Before COVID happened.
I definitely look stoned. Oh, I'm Jessie.
I'm Nina.
And this is the Panic Button.
Wow! So anyway, before COVID hit, I was, and still am, agoraphobic. When everything started shutting...
Did you want to elaborate on that? I don't know if everyone knows what that means.
Oh, agoraphobic, yeah. That's probably a good idea. So agoraphobic is... Pretty much the definition is being afraid of open spaces. For me, it's just leaving the house, being out in public, being around a lot of people. Pretty much, yeah. So when everything started shutting down, it really didn't bother me. Didn't really affect me at all because I didn't really like leaving the house anyway, and I never did. So I would see all over the news that people were freaking out. Oh, they have to stay home.
Isolating themselves,
Yeah, people
Quarantine.
Getting depressed. And for me, it was like, just another day.
Hey.
Ain't no skin off my
So
back.
where were you when COVID started, like when you first heard about COVID?
I was living with my girlfriend and her parents. So it was 7 people. My girlfriend at the time.
I got you.
2 dogs, I think 3 cats. There was 3 geese, chickens, 7 people.
How many bedrooms?
2. No, 3.
I
We
guess that
actually
could work.
stayed in like the sunroom area, which is great if you're a light sleeper. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah,
It's not great. It freaking sucked. Yeah. I was living there. Things were starting to shut down after I moved out and moved back here. What?
How the fuck did she deal with it?
Well, by the time that was going on, I wasn't anywhere around her, so she was probably going out all the time and getting her social fix.
So by March, you were already out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Gotcha,
I was out
gotcha.
for my birthday. Yeah, it's like
hadn't really hit?
it's such a freaking blur because the COVID thing went by really fast. For me, it didn't drag on at all. I was actually kind of enjoying myself because I get to when I actually did.
COVID kind of dragged on. I mean, for most people, you're right.
I
You're
know.
like, it was a blink of an eye. I mean, I sneezed and it was over. What a pandemic.
Right. Well, because for me, it was almost enjoyable because when I actually did have to go out, there wasn't a lot of cars on the road, so I didn't have to deal with the claustrophobia of like the traffic and all that stuff. And then when I did actually go into stores, there weren't a lot of people, so that was great too because I can only be in a store for so long before the sweats start hitting, and then the panic attack begins. The sweats, when I start getting hot, it's really when I know, like, oh, fuck, I got like 5 to 10 minutes in here before I start to panic. So
Definitely polar opposites because I work in a store 8 hours a day.
it's a big, big difference.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like it. You remember when I first started there? Mm-hmm. I really don't like it. But
Also, that was around the time when I was already comfortable being alone. Even though it was in a house with 7 people, I was completely isolated. I preferred it that way. I didn't like being around people. Then when I moved here, I didn't hang around with any friends. The only people I saw were my family. I didn't go out unless I was going to the dentist to get my teeth fixed or to go to Sunoco.
Smokes.
And get smokes or a Red Bull or something like that. But other than that, I was a happy camper. And there was a lot of content. There was a lot of really good content that was on YouTube. So I was working on stuff that I needed to get done. I was working on music. I was out of a toxic relationship. I was focusing on myself without being distracted by anyone else. And it was good. And everyone else was freaking out. And I thought it was very interesting to be on that side of things, to see that side of things, and while everyone else is
I was
freaking
gonna say,
out.
because your version of COVID, even versus mine, your version of COVID sounds like lovely, lovely, lovely. I can explain to you what COVID was like for me, but it's crazy.
Go for it.
Okay, so I will say COVID was officially, that pandemic, it came out in March of 2020. We know that as a fact. But
Yeah.
in December of 2020, I was living with my ex's family and dating the psycho at the same time.
Wow. How'd that go?
Well, it wasn't bad because, okay, let's see. She had her mom, dad, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, 3 dogs, 2 cats,
Yeah.
and then the babies. There was 11 people. I got really sick, pretty sure with COVID just before that. I had slowly moved in with that psycho. Bad move on my part. And that's when the pandemic was announced. And so that was right before my 21st birthday. Oh, sorry, right after my 21st birthday. I went to one bar. That was my entire celebration.
Yeah.
So, like, going out, especially in the way that most people do, wasn't really an option for me. You know what I mean? I couldn't go to clubs or bars and things like that because the entire world shut down. I was working at that big store, the one I work at now again.
Yeah.
And deemed essential. So, like, my life never ceased. Like, I still went to work. I never had work from home or anything like that.
So what was crazy about it then?
I broke my foot, got stuck at home for a little bit, and then I kind of chilled for like a month, and that was kind of it. It was just crazy because I like moved around so much and started the worst relationship I ever was in because, COVID.
So not that crazy.
It was crazy for like how many things were going on.
I was thinking like a relative died and then like a truck fell on your house. I mean, that would be crazy.
No, that dude died that I told you about. Nothing fell on my house. It wasn't crazy. I mean, it was port wording on my
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. It's like, not so crazy.
It was just a lot of things happening, and then like everyone was getting sick all the time. Everyone was constantly bitching. Oh, the stores were absolutely insane. I hated going to work because I literally had to guard toilet paper aisles. We had to limit people, and people would throw fits because you wouldn't let them take out so much toilet paper. And it's like, well, the world needs toilet paper, not just you, motherfucker. So people would get mad at you for that. I got in more like screaming matches during COVID than anything at work. People were super aggressive, but like, I hated it. I didn't like having to wear a mask. Every time I'd come into work, they'd have to give me a temp check and, ask me if I had any symptoms. And if I came in, because I smoke a lot of weed, if I smoked a joint before I came in, they'd be like, go home. Like, oh, okay, I guess. Bye. Like, I don't know what you want. You're coughing. Bye. See ya. And, like, you could sneeze and people would look at you like you're a demon. Every time you have any ailment, do you have COVID? Do you have COVID? You must have COVID. Go away for 2 weeks. Like, I don't thrive on socialization, but it's so fucking frustrating.
After a while, did you notice there was a lot of really shit art too?
No, because I was working. I worked overtime like crazy. I worked 2 jobs.
Well, I noticed that there was a lot of shit music, shit movies, shit. There was a lot of shit. It wasn't very good. I mean, there was a lot of good content on YouTube, stuff like that, right? But as far as TV, movies, I don't know. It's because everyone was locked up. Bullshit. I don't care. You can still make music from home. This is not the 1970s.
Did you ever watch the SNL quarantine editions? They
No.
still did SNL in quarantine. They just did it from their home. They set up a little camera in their house and they did skits. Which, like, I'm not saying it was great, but they still tried. You know what I mean? They were like, the show must go on. And I respect that. And so I watched a few episodes, yeah. So, like, I don't know why people stopped doing things. If SNL kept going, why did you stop going?
Well, let's see. Let's hear from the Peanut Gallery. Well, the Peanut Gallery says, well, they couldn't make art because we had to stay indoors because people were dying because COVID was a deadly virus. So people couldn't make art. But people still made art. It was just shit. For the most part, there were only a few good movies. I remember Host was a good movie. I enjoyed that horror
I
movie.
didn't even have time to watch movies then. You'd have to tell me. Host? What's Host?
It's a horror movie. You watched it with me. Webcam movies. where they're all talking they had a seance.
From the webcams. And then the
yeah.
chick gets like thrown against the fridge or something at the end. Something about the chair. The chair. Is it the chair?
Spoiler alert. Too late now.
Is that a spoiler? The bitch gets thrown against the chair and that's really a spoiler? Is that just a fact?
Well, it's
what
a
am I
fact that
spoiling?
maybe-
Who's
well-
throwing her? We don't know.
How does she identify as her?
Who do you know I'm talking about? There's like 4 or 5 women in there.
Okay, good point. Shut up. The shit shows, the shit movies. But I was more disappointed with the music. That one really was
Yeah, because like
a letdown. It was a
Because like people
letdown.
make music in isolation constantly. Look at the Phantom of the Opera.
I don't understand what you're saying. What about the Phantom of the Opera?
The people write music in isolation all the time, and then look at the Phantom of the Opera.
He's a great example. Couldn't have named anyone else.
I mean, I'd assume that Andrew Lloyd Webber probably does write his music in isolation.
Well, how many people do you know write their music in public?
How many people write cats? Someone who writes music in isolation with his cats. Yeah, the music thing is really upsetting because you'd think that who do you know that's not writing music like by themselves?
Well, they usually have a fucking team.
Well, that makes sense.
they-
But like,
Do it in a room.
you can like Zoom call that shit.
I know.
You can totally Zoom call that shit.
Or maybe they made so much shit music because these artists need so many other people to write their songs.
Yeah, so they were doing it alone because they were bored.
So that's why there was nothing but shit music coming out. Or they just didn't make music. So they
Just, like, release
showed
shit.
their hidden
Yeah, the old,
spanks.
they showed their old shit that they weren't going to release.
It was like they showed their cards. Like, here, I can't use these 15 other people because, some of them are sick with COVID. Half of them are dead. I'm kidding. But so I'm going to make
But it's
music
true.
with just me and Dan. And we're going to release it and see what happens. And then you release it and you're like, oh, you needed those 15 other people. And so you see their cards, what they're really holding, which isn't much.
Oh, Dan.
Dan wasn't enough to save your song. Like and subscribe. I muted your mic
I could tell.
because you were coughing.
Yeah, it's been a problem. Is there anything you wanted to do during COVID that you couldn't do? What was your COVID like?
No,
I didn't think so. You could do anything you wanted.
Yeah.
Anything you do right now, you do.
exactly.
You ever been to like Sky Zone or anything like that?
I don't want to be around people.
We could rent out a whole Sky Zone to ourselves.
I don't have that kind of money.
Well, hypothetically, would you ever want to go to Sky Zone? Is that something that you're into? Like, is there anything that's out there that you'd want to do if you weren't agoraphobic? Or like could pay for people just not to be there?
No, I really can't think of anything right now.
You don't want to go mini golfing, parasailing, and that like jet thing where you get in the water and you have like a jetpack made from water and you go. Woo!
I'm not easy to please. Just find me a good movie and I'm good.
You don't go. Woo!
I don't need to.
Just watch some M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Yeah.
Easy date.
Like and subscribe. Said that 3 times already. But do it.